Okay, let's talk the grand final, which creeps ever closer. And throughout the week, we have plotted it. We've plotted the course towards the game that matters most, with the hopefuls involved in this year and those who have experienced it in the past.
You've got to take the emotional risk to be great, knowing that you might not get there.
It's been the hardest week of my life. As skipper and as someone that's incredibly driven as a 30-year-old guy that might not be able to get this chance again, I'm dedicated everything to be able to win this flag.
Just enjoy the emotions that you get to feel, ride them out, and just be prepared to enjoy the day and enjoy the build-up.
And the fact that I'm a part of a team that is getting to play off for that ultimate success, which is what we're chasing, is something that I don't want to take for granted. It's something that I want to appreciate.
I grow up, like any other boy, dreaming of playing an AFL grand final and winning a premiership. We haven't been in this position, or I haven't been in this position ever, and as the Melbourne Footy Club since 2000.
You're trying to figure out, do I have to do anything different? Do I have to inspire the players in a different way? Are there any tricks we need to play? Or do you just say, listen, there's enough on the game that the players have just got to go out there and play?
Don't try to pull a rabbit out of the hat on the biggest game of the year. You know, they're there for a reason. Their system has worked really, really strongly. Their players have been able to execute. Back yourselves in grand final day. We've seen how brutal the start of grand finals can be, because that's everyone's intention. Everyone's intention is to come out and stamp themselves in the best possible way on the game as early as possible.
Who is going to shirk the first contest, or who is going to totally commit themselves to this grand final? And it sets the scene. Someone will get a chance. Someone will get a chance to do that.
Feel the feels, let it wash over you, however you react to that. Do it your way, and then go out and give 2 hours of the best effort you've ever given in your life.
Great musical choices to go with the words of the week. Here are the teams, Jack. All eyes were to the Bulldogs, and what would they do? They get the two first-choice players back, Alex Keith and Cody Waitman, who had missed the preliminary final. Ryan Gardner is the unlucky player. Zane Cordy holds his place in the team, and Gardner goes, as Tom Morris forecast last night. Latham Vandermeer and Scott was the Medi sub. So think about Vandermeer's behind as the only reason they got out of the Gabba. I reckon he's the Medi sub in the way that that's come forward. And on the Melbourne side of things, they've got great stability in this final series. The only change they've been forced to make along the way was when Hibberd came in for Smith. But other than that, they've been unchanged through the series.
Yeah, I like the stability of Melbourne, but obviously the unfortunate side of grand finals and selections is that players miss out. And that's the case for two Bulldogs.
So let's head to Crown Towers. Gary Lyon has stepped us through this for a month now. Gaz, great to have you back on 360.
Good to be with you, Jared and Jack. It's 5 to 6 here, so it's about quarter time, I reckon. This is on Saturday, a couple of days' time. So sun just going down. It was a beautiful day today, about 26 degrees. It's got a little chill in the air now, so conditions will be magnificent on Saturday.
Ryan Gardner shapes as the hard luck story of 2021, Gaz.
Yeah, I know. There's no... we've heard it since we've been discussing the Nathan Jones situation. There's no fairy tales, is there? And you know, when you've got someone like Alex Keith, who's been just such an outstanding player for that footy club, he's coming back in, and they know it, and everyone in that footy club knows it. So he would have been nervous, and Cordy would have been nervous, and sadly for him, he goes out, and that's just footy. That's what makes Winningham such a privilege. I heard Jack talking about it earlier, is because all these things can happen, and everything's got to fall into place for you to be there on that day when you salute.
And so Melbourne unchanged. They've had great stability, which means Stephen May's hamstring is okay and Charlie Spargo's ankle's okay. There has been a sense of calm around Melbourne. This is how it's going to look.
Yeah, I didn't think for a second. Well, certainly the Spargo one was not an issue in the world, and Stephen May was confident from the moment that the game finished in the preliminary final. I spoke to him through the week. He was supremely confident in that first week and said that there's no rush to get out and give it a good test, and he's clearly done that, and they've all come through. So, yeah, no, they're settled and in good shape and no excuses.
And Gaz, a pretty simple one for me, mate. How are you coping, and how many times have you played the game out in your head so far?
I haven't had time to be honest, Jack. It's been a pretty hectic week, this one. Early starts and a few late finishes, but tomorrow we swing into what is, traditionally what we know back in Melbourne. It's the big grand final eve lunch, and then you'll sort of sit around and have a beer and talk about lots of contemporaries. I know a lot of the boys, a lot of the players from around the league that are able to be here will be at the lunch tomorrow, and they'll all sit around and enviously think about, if they will ever get the chance to play. And then Saturday it's on. So, no, I'm going okay. I'm just hoping that both the Bulldogs boys and the Demons boys are getting through. It's been a long 2 weeks.
Fascinating conversation last night on AFL 360 with Jordan Lewis, Jared Ruffhead about the first 20 minutes of the game. Gaz, in your perfect world, and take your Fox footy hat off here, you put your Melbourne hat on, you're presenting the cup. What's the one moment you'd love to see from a certain player to know that your D's are on?
Petrarca just banging out of the middle and whacking it in from about 55, and I might have thought about that once or twice, Jack. If you really want to rub it in, then come back into the middle and big Maxi goes bang from 55 again. Then we think, things are looking all right here.
They sound like your dreams more than your thoughts during the day.
That's the spirit. Hey, now, we were just talking about the Premier, Gaz. There was a time last year where he was the AFL's nemesis. There was a time this year where he could barely muster a smile at the prospect of a grand final, and now here he is spruiking the greatest grand final of all time. He's come around.
And I've come round to smirk, let me tell you that. He's one of the great men here. He's got this beautiful city smiling upon us.
Have you?
Can I say this? I have, there's no question, Jack. This is... and I'm sparing a thought for everyone back in Melbourne, but to be able to walk the streets here and go for a coffee and sit in a beer garden, and there's not a mask in sight. So they've been lucky and fortunate, and he's driven a pretty hard line on it all, but I tell you what, the AFL and footy fans, we're all thankful that he has, because we're going to get a game on Saturday that I think is going to be unlike any other we've seen for a long, long time.
It'll be brilliant. Gaz, you're a big part of the coverage on Saturday. You won't be able to watch the game anonymously, I'm sure, so we'll all watch vicariously and see how you go during it. But the best of luck, and thanks for your contribution across the past few weeks.
Good on you, Jared. Thanks, Jack.
Gary Lyon with us on 360 from Crown Towers in Perth.
Max Gawn is a talisman of the Demons. The towering ruckman is their skipper and the face of his footy club. But it wasn't always like this.
I'll take it back to my first year. I was the only one without a number. And I still only got a number 3 weeks in. And then I sort of said, why am I got a number to Bales or someone like that? And he goes, Jim's working on getting 37 free, which was Warnock. Back in Warnock got moved to number 1, and then all of a sudden 37's free. So Jim was able to pull some strings to get me in 37.
Jim, of course, is Jim Steins, legendary Demons ruckman, who saw enough of himself and young Max to make sure he began his career in the same number he did.
He stood me up in front of wheels, the 6 draftees, Scully, Trengrove, great names within that draft, and all our parents, all our family and board members, and he stood me up in front, made me stand up, and everyone's looking at me and he goes, this kid's going to be different. And I'm like, why is he pinpointing me? Like, I don't feel like I'm different. I'm just one of these draftee kids. He goes, this kid's going to be different. And he got me afterwards and said, you know what I mean by that? He goes, you do it differently. Don't conform. Don't be that person who thinks he has to be someone else, because you'll waste your energy. You waste your energy trying to be someone else, and I'll be out of the door in 2 years. Now looking back on it, it's some of the best words I've ever been given, and I feel like it's my job now to tell that it's okay to be different. You tick off these values, you tick off what we want you to do on the field and off the field, and then just go be the person you want to be, and that's Jim.
Max swapped his number 37 for 11, just like Jim did, but he's not trying to be anyone but himself.
Max Gawn pulls down a ripper. And there it is again. Where do you want it?
Gawn goes the banana. Oh! Gawn and the boundary, the best of friends.
Even if people want to be a little bit like him.
That's it. I'm growing a beard this week.
And why wouldn't you? He's a 5-time All-Australian, 2-time best and fairest, and maybe, just maybe, a premiership captain.
And Melbourne are minor premiers. Wow. Just like that.
He got them there with a signature performance in the prelim.
The skipper on the run, around the corner. They've got 8.
He was a force, a constant procession of highlights, a masterclass in match winning.
55 5 metres, set sail for home.
It's the best ruck performance I have ever seen.
Look at Gawn kicking goals, laying tackles.
I've never seen anyone do that.
I've always wanted to add more things to my game. I didn't think 5 goals was one thing I was going to my game. I'll start with that.
Have a look at this. Another one for the Demons. It's Max Gawn.
Max Gawn has gone from a numberless draftee to captaining the game's oldest club in the grand final. And he, like his team, has done a great job. But the job's not done.
I think people know, and deep down I know that people are happy either way, but I'm not. Nah, I really want to win this.
He's the man at the helm of the mission. Don't conform. Great words. The watch list brought to you by the all-new 7-seat Isuzu MUX. Lee Montagna, welcome.
Jared, Jack.
David King, hello.
Hey, G.
I know you've been deep in work around grand final, but we have an emergency addition to the watch list.
A late edition.
We do. And look, Joey and I are upstairs, and everyone's talking about the Premier of Western Australia, how he kicked the ball. Let's have a look at the CEO of the competition. He's meant to be an A-grade ruckman from the Amos. Look at this. Look, what's that? What is that? I mean, no wonder the Premier's complaining. I'll be complaining too.
The answer might be in the way you've set it out there, King. You said ruckman.
Yeah, well...
Is that a prerequisite for the next person that takes over from Gill? Do we have to get them out at Marvel Stadium and they've actually got to hit a 25-metre drop punt and then they can go for the roll?
I don't know. He needs some... He's got to do some work, the boy.
Not good enough.
That was a bad start to his weekend.
All right, you've both been hard at work, having presented some terrific stuff last Thursday night to give us the full, 10 days to ponder. What are you going to add late here with holding and rolling, which you're in on together?
Yeah, well, we've been looking at a lot of vision over the last 6 weeks of these two teams, knowing that they're going to be there around the mark. And the battle for us comes down to what you do with your investment of the spare man, of the extra. So we know what the Dogs do, and we'll just start some vision at stoppage, because fundamentally that's where it's going to reset every time. Now, the Dogs will roll one player up, a half forward, sometimes two. On this occasion, it's two. So they're investing in to win the ball here, to start with possession. Whatever they roll up, Melbourne will hold the reverse. If they roll up one, they'll have one extra. If they roll up two, they'll have two extra. Dogs will go one-on-one behind the footy, because their investment's at the ball. OK? So this will continually happen. So the Dogs have got to win clearance.
Yeah, but this is one thing that I noticed in this game that I reckon it might be a tactic Melbourne use, where instead of hitting it to where the Dogs' numbers are, Gawn might whack it out of that congestion and actually eliminate the Dogs having that extra number.
So once the ball leaves that area, the Dogs are able to maintain that rolling advantage of +1, +2 around the football. So their go is to be able to carry the ball forward. So the game hinges on what they do with these sorts of kicks, because they've got to get through the holding advantage of Melbourne. So it's rolling versus holding constantly through the course of the game. So it starts at stoppage, but it just evolves in general play. So Bontempelli versus Lever, effectively, it becomes, because he's the one that gets forward. But that could be a whole host of players. Yep. That could be 6 or 7 different magnets. So Levers or Salem, whoever it is, has got to pick off who it is that's coming forward. Tough to do. But that's the challenge, and that's how the game presents.
So you've experienced this, Jack, against both sides. When we take a, that's from a stoppage, but when we take a look at the same principles in general play, it's the two philosophies of the two sides. The Western Bulldogs like to have their extra numbers around the ball. Melbourne like to have it behind the ball. So this is why they're two of the best defences in the competition, but they do it differently. The Dogs do it by numbers around the footy. So this is where they intercept and win the ball back. That's why they're the best team at conceding inside 50s, because they do it with a swarm of numbers. That's how they like to play the game and how they defend. But then the philosophy of Melbourne, now when the Dogs do win the ball, and that's why they get so many possessions, they flick it around, they use their numbers. But you're going to see this on Saturday. This is how Melbourne like to play. They hold their defenders, they hold their players behind the footy. So you're thinking, kick it in, kick it in. But this is why, Jack, Melbourne have been probably the best defence we've ever seen recorded by Champion Data when the ball goes inside their defensive 50. Because look at that. Look at the numbers there now for Melbourne. It's going to be very hard to score in that situation. So this is where Melbourne get their intercept game going back. They win the footy back. It goes out of bounds. And guess what? We set up. We start all over again, and it's the two principles, the two philosophies going at it.
Just watching it on Saturday night, it'd be really interesting to see how the half-forward line of the Bulldogs, where they get the ball. So we see there Hugo Hagen kicks the ball in from probably outside 70. That allows teams to play that drop-off. You've got to draw them up. Yep. So marks in between the 40-metre zone and the 70-metre zone are going to be crucial, because it actually takes out that spare, because all of a sudden they're accessing that little part of the ground. Lever has to come up. He has to come up to either man the mark or he's got to play on his man.
All the Dogs do it so well when they use the numbers and they draw and they run and handball through the numbers.
And we've talked last week about the influence of Treloar and Bailey Smith, who's that player that's rolling up as the extra and getting lost on the way back. Kicked 8 goals through a final series. He's probably been the player of the month. So that's the challenge. We don't know who's going to win. We don't know which philosophy holds sway, but that's the theory behind what they're doing.
And there's some numbers around the Dogs' clearances.
Yeah, well, their clearance works. The Dogs have got the extras there. 1 + 1 + 2. So their ability to not necessarily rely on the hit out. OK, so they lose the hit out. So they're not going to win first possession. So the opposition, Melbourne will probably get as much opportunity with first possession as the Dogs will on Saturday night. But their ability to strip the ball because of the extra numbers, put pressure on, make it dirty, make it ugly, win it back, then chain out. So you can see there across the course of the year, +5 first possessions, but +147 clearances. The next best is +40. So it's a huge number. And it's little plays like this. Look at the numbers swarm in, put pressure on, get their handball game going, away they go. Here, where are you going to go with this? Pressure coming, pressure coming. They've got the extra. They can overcommit, Jack. You know exactly what we're talking about here. So there's an art form to this. This is a real asset that they're happy to go against numbers. They're happy to, be ready to clamp, be ready to dispossess and then explode and excite.
I think they're going to know what Melbourne's strengths are. So clearly big-bodied midfielders. Wouldn't be surprised if they play them from behind a little bit. Don't get in front of Petrarca, those sort of guys that can move you out of the way. Then it allows you to automatically tackle. And the Dogs are fantastic at pre-clearance pressure.
And conversely, Melbourne are a team that they're happy to concede the extra number at a stoppage. They say, OK, we're going to back our pressure in and our midfielders. They're so good that we'll take one less at a stoppage and still get away with it and we'll defend behind the football, and that's why they don't get scored against. So those numbers actually show that. Melbourne give up the 4th most clearances, and everyone thinks, that's a surprise. They've got the best ruckman and the best mids in the competition. Well, that's generally because they're giving up an extra player. But you can see there they don't get scored against from stoppage.
They've won the clearance battle 10 times this year, and they've won scores from clearance in every one of those games. If they win clearance and they win scores from clearance, they'll win this game by some margin. That's as critical as you can make it for the Dogs midfielders.
And that's around the contest, and that's the clearances. This is in general play, so these are post-clearance. Once the ball is in motion, that I know Richmond, it's a huge stat for them. Both times that these two sides have played, Melbourne have touched up the Western Bulldogs in this area. They have dominated those ground ball gets, so that's a big advantage for Melbourne, that as good as the Western Bulldogs are, and they've been the number 3 team all year in that stat, Melbourne have been clearly the number 1 team.
Post-clearance contested ball, for the layman's out there, it's literally the real one-on-one. So they're the contests that'll either go one way or the other. One way or the other way. That's why it's such an important stat.
All right, a couple of the individuals. So Libba is such a big source of debate because of what happened in round 11, when really Melbourne were the first team to go to him.
Yeah, and I question the finger-deep analysis that Harms beat Libba. I reckon Libba beat Libba. I don't reckon he handled it. And I just want to show you some vision. Libba's a ball winner. He goes after the contested possession. He's head in a hole. He's at the ruckman's feet. Just have a look at here. So he didn't handle the tag coming to him. So he thought, I'm going to do the team first thing. I'm going to go to Oliver. So the ball gets thrown. He really does nothing. He neither goes for the football nor negates the other player. So same thing again. These are all early in the game. I'm going to do the team thing. I'm going to try and free up Bont. I'm going to go to Oliver. He really doesn't have a play either way. So his role is not... This virtually falls exactly where he normally goes to. I mean, what's the point of him picking up a Jordan or those sort of types? Go for the ball. That's his ball in there. Front of the stoppage, ruckman's toes. So I just want Libba to not get consumed by a tag. If it happens, take the compliment and go and hunt the footy and go and be the ball winner. We call him the liberator. He's the one that starts the fire. He sets them free. So we've got to see Libba back to his hunting best.
Taking the chances, this is an eternal in grand finals.
It is, isn't it? I mean, for as much as we can talk about tactics and game plans and contested possessions, we know finals, and particularly grand finals, are going to come down to taking opportunities and converting half chances. And I mean, we've seen Dustin Martin take grand finals away from opposition by taking half chances and converting. And we highlighted this after this game. We put it on the watch list, Jared. Petrarca had 5 shots at goal in this game when Melbourne lost, and he only converted 1 of them. He's going to get his moments. And this isn't just about him, because we're going to look at the stars for both sides. I mean, he's had 68 shots for goal for the year. Petrarca kicked 27 of them. Bontempelli's had 59 shots at goal for the year, kicked 28 of them. It's going to come down to moments. These superstars, like Dustin Martin have done, are going to have half chances. And if Petrarca can do this, and convert them instead of misses. Sometimes for all the analysis and all the deep dive of footy, it's going to come down to someone converting and taking their chances, and accuracy is going to play a big part.
I've noticed with Petrarca this year, I reckon he's really started to grow into his game, which sounds like a silly thing to say, but the Gawn goal where he ran through and kicked it from 50 was set up because Petrarca didn't blaze away. Those shots there were sort of getting it, hoiking it on the boot and just trying to have a shot where I reckon he's started to understand that he's not a puppy. He's actually a big bulldog. I say bulldog. He's actually a big dog now. He can actually drive through, and it actually might not be him having the shots.
Yeah, and he's gotten better as he...
He's actually dishing them off and getting it to the next bloke to have a shot, get out in a better position.
Oliver's doing the same. That leg drive from stoppage has been a shift, and we talked about it last week. Adam Uze's had a major play in that.
Yep. Take us back to one of the earliest pieces in the lab that you did this year, identifying Melbourne's defensive structure and the connectivity that they've got.
Well, this is the risk when you people laugh. This is not overly analytical. It's not really. It just shows the buy-in defensively and the team-first nature of the Demons. And it was probably the first time I recognised that this is on a different level. That as soon as they lose possession and they can slow the opposition down, they want to make this quicksand. They want to lock you in down the line, get through Gawn, get through Lever, get through May. That's their trump card. So if the Dogs, who did at times go lateral early in their occasion in the year, if you start going lateral, this is what you end up having to come through. They'll organise themselves, hands and eyes, everyone in the right spot, leaders taking control, everyone playing their role, and they'll just continue to win back possession. It's what they've done all year. Number one team at winning the ball back off of everything they do without the footy. Clearly the best team I've seen without the sharing in their hand. Don't allow you to move the ball. They out-pressure you. I haven't seen a team that's outnumbered at stoppage and outnumbered around the ground as consistently as they are still be number one for pressure. So I think they've just got so many assets that we haven't seen before that I think it's going to take them to glory.
So a closing word as we bring the watch list to its climax.
You know I've been on Melbourne all year. I think they've been the best team and I've loved them. But this 2 weeks is getting to me because I'm starting to get nervous that I have overthought. I think the Western Bulldogs are in this game up to their eyeballs. I think that they could... I'm going to stick with Melbourne. I'm going to stick with Melbourne only just, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Dogs win this. I think as great as Melbourne have been, I can see the Dogs...
You've done a Gary Lyon. You've played the game in your head way too many times, mate.
My year's done, Jared. I'm cooked. It's been a long year. For some reason, I think the Western Bulldogs could cause an upset, but I'm going to stick with Melbourne.
Yeah, the bye's sunk Joey. That's okay.
He called me an idiot about 8 times this year for not tipping Melbourne. Now he's...
No, can happen to the best of us.
I think they'll win still, just.
And you?
Just.
I'm going to get to what Joey really thinks. Melbourne. I think grand finals are not won by small margins. Once these two with opposing theories go head-to-head, one will break the other. Oil and water, you call it. I think you're spot on. I think it'll be a 30-point margin plus. Either way, I mean, the Dogs could get hold of them, but I'm staunch on what Melbourne have done without the football. And you won me at about round 11. I can't believe you got off now. It's unbelievable.
Shall we? Shall we?
Come on.
5 of the last 10 outsiders have won the grand final. It doesn't. The best team all year doesn't necessarily win on this day.
History never repeats, mate. History never repeats.
A great watch list right throughout the year.